distractions. I will kick it off just with like saying my intention today. I really want to like hone in on the work that Bear's been doing around budget and like get us all to a place where we're everybody's clear about what's going on there, and then talk about Twitter, talk about our comms, because it's been we've been kind of going too long without like some sense of direction here, and I think it's been hard. So I wanted to do that, and then just touch a little bit on the funding proposal for our next proposal, basically. Not really any distractions. So I will turn it over to Marathon Mind.
Hey, I'm here for the intentions. I'm here for all the updates that's happening. Distractions, none as of now. I'll pass it on to Nate.
Yeah, thank you. Just intentions and distractions. Just to kind of give updates on the developments and the interest in the Shelling Point initiative, and yeah, no distractions at the moment. I'll pass it over to Joseph.
Intentions are to continue working with Nate in regards to the SPI stuff. Just talking to him in the background with potentially how I see potentially like, presenting some of the step-by-step stuff. In terms of distractions, none for this week, but definitely some for next week, but that's a whole different story for a different day. And I'll pass it on to Bear.
Thank you. Intentions, to go over the budget for February and be able to come to like an agreement, just like what Gideon said, that we all feel comfortable with, and that is just like a good starting point for everyone. And yeah, that's basically it for me. And I don't have a distraction right now. I'll pass it over to Tam.
So really excited to see the budget results and just chat and help wherever I can as usual. Distractions, I am a little cold, so I'm feeling slightly less awesome than my usual. And I do have a conflict at the top of the hour, so I'll hop off then. But I think I lost who didn't go. Acid, did you go?
No, thanks, Sam. Intentions to give you guys my updates and just to catch up on what's going on. Instructions. I had been sick all this week, and I'm feeling better now, but I'm still a little sick. But I think that's it. And I think maybe Juanca.
Thank you, Acid. Yeah, my intention is to sync with you guys. It's very interesting to talk about budgets, and also to get in touch because I haven't been able to participate in the last calls. And my distraction is that I flew from another city to my hometown very early today, and I just arrived to my house, so I am just like stretching my legs. And I don't know if Tam, did you go?
Yeah, I think NT, you can pass it to NT.
Okay, pass it to NT.
Cool, thanks. Intentions, well, there's quite a few things to talk today with the budget, and also I'll talk about grants and some of stuff. Distractions, well, I had planned to do something, and last minute I thought of doing something different, so I'm finishing writing something to I'll write up to show up in a few minutes. But that's all. Before passing it back, I'm wondering if maybe we can talk about the grants first before the budget, because people usually at the top of the hour go, and I think the budget we can, if anything, the people that usually stay can can sort of deal with that, but I would love to have more input with the grants and all of that.
Sure. Indy, how much time do you think you need?
15 minutes overall, I think.
Okay, I think we can do that. I think what I need to do is shoot this agenda out a little bit earlier to get the top level stuff. I think we can fit it all in. But yeah, let's do that. And then if need be, we can push the new funding proposal conversation out till next week, worst case. Okay. Wait, did everybody go? Sorry, I was actually adding notes. I was adding attendees, so I think I missed. Did anybody not get their intentions? Okay. Cool. All right, so let's just make these updates super quick. Basically, on the strategic framework, I have my last meeting that I know of today. Michael Zargam right after this call, so I'm looking forward to that. And then basically after that, I'll post it up onto the forum, and then we'll try to get a vote. So I'm going to try to get it up on the forum next week. Conversations still continuing to happen with the academy. Really productive. Let's see. Antti, maybe you can give the update on what's happened with the curation service. But Bear, you want to go next?
Sure, yeah. So really quickly, this week has been a week for like trying to close the budget for February. I think we were able to achieve that. There's just a couple of little details that we still need to manage, but I think we're gonna be okay, and we're ready for the month. Payments were sent out yesterday, just waiting for approval on the multisig. And yeah, I think that'd be the quick update. I'll pass it on to Nate.
Yeah, so the interest groups, we're starting the phase 1 of the infrastructure and development. So documentation and infrastructure for the interest and research groups. Hopefully getting these up and running in the next week. And yeah, that's it for right now. And I'll pass it on to Acid.
Thanks, Nate. Just quick updates. Well, the first one is I want to praise Bear because he has been really with me about. Are you going to say something? I want to praise Bear because he has been in touch with me about observation that I said a couple weeks ago about some compensation, just R39X9 that I didn't have when I was in comms and when there wasn't like a budget for me. Just 3 weeks on November, I texted that in the chat some weeks ago, but I didn't remember to catch up with this in these conversations. Just want to hear your opinion about this, if it's okay or not. Also, I'm working now. I have been sick this week, so I haven't been working a lot, but yesterday I started the Quant video promoting tweets. They are in that Google Docs. I'm starting now. If you want to add some ideas or some feedback, feel free to add it, and I will see it. And I make the new Twitter banner with the observations that you guys said to me in the last call. The text is bigger, and the TEC logo in the background it's also more clear. And if you like it, I can insert it today. And yeah, we have now the 3 heads for the nouns that Griff said that we need 3, so I made 3. Just are more robots, and yeah, that's it. Opinions or something?
Hey, Acid, just one quick comment. I'm wondering, it still looks a little bit weird, the banner, having the TEC and the token engineering thing there within that weird square. I mean, I know that's the bottom of the E, but maybe could you do a fade like from the top so that it's like clear at the top and then it just fades, you know, the background logo fades as you get closer to the bottom or something like that?
Okay, you're talking about the
The,
background?
the banner, yeah. That
Okay.
background, the banner.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. Anybody have any feedback on the head? The heads look great, look very cute. Anybody else have any feedback real quick?
Yeah, especially Bear about my first point. What do you think?
Yeah, for the in regards with the compensation for comms, I don't know if we should try to take some time maybe during the call if there's time to talk more about it, or Gideon, do you think it would be a good idea just to try to jump into this like right now?
Well, I actually I'd like to just keep this focused on updates, but I'll move this into that section. We're talking about Twitter. But is it just 39 die? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like we should just do that.
Oh
and
yeah,
not
yeah.
have a big conversation about it. If it's just 39 die, then let's do it. It's not going to have a huge impact on our budget.
Cool. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no, it's all good. I thought honestly, I thought it was more acid, but yeah, it's all good.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Sure thing. Okay. NT.
Sure. So a couple of things. First, with the creation service, we had a really nice chat yesterday. It was just, I don't know, this week. Um, they seem to now have some things more clear. Like there's one guy that's working with them to solve some of the issues. The service is now working. Like they are receiving the information from our server to their database. And the only thing that's left is the database to the Airtable connection. But that should be pretty straightforward, right? So that's one thing. And so now the creation service moving forward will probably be more focused on the interest groups, right? Because the Twitter case is already figured out and it's easier and whatnot. And now it's about solving the interest groups and hopefully also getting it integrated with Academy finally. That's one thing. Then other thing, I yesterday sent the first batch of badges for moderators on the server. That's a small testing we're doing with Soulbound tokens. Um, right now, only Tam, Gideon, and I have the tokens. But the idea is that with those tokens, we control access to some roles and some more critical stuff. And well, the rest is about the grants. So I guess I'll wait until that. I'll pass it over to Marathon Mind.
So I have little doubts about how this Twitter thread is being, on what frequency I need to do it. Is it on a weekly basis, or is it based on the comments, or how highlighted the content on the shared group? Another thing I was wondering is if I can do a small article, 1,000 words or 800 words article on what content curation services, just thinking if I can do it, if somebody from the team can help me with it, I'm willing to do it. Yeah. I'll pass it on to Joseph.
Okay, so updates is I had a meeting with Nate and I forgot his name, someone from the Introvert Networks. So talking about how we can actually get funding easily and more streamlined. And based off of that meeting, I was talking with Nate of how I'm going to create the step by step to easily portray that in the documentation, so that when people want to find out more information about that, they can see it and ingest it in a more, easy and understandable way. And then also waiting, well, not waiting, but yeah, going to be in talks with Nate again to do with like the roadmap and seeing how we can, where I can plug in directly and start working on what stuff needs to be attended to ASAP with regards to like documentation. That's it.
Okay, thanks everybody. Juanca and Tim, I'm not going to be calling on you guys for updates because we're trying to keep it focused on the coordination, what the coordination team is up to. Okay, even though we are very interested and the stuff you guys are doing is very cool, and Juanca is getting close on his website, and I know Tam is doing some really cool stuff with Refi. With the Refi DAO and the Refi network. But anyway, all right, let us move on to the Common Pool grants. NT, do you want to take it away?
Sure, thanks. Well, so let me share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Cool. Well, I did this very quickly, so before this call, so it's still a work in progress. But overall, the idea for the grants comes first with the needs of finding other ways to manage our common pool, because conviction voting doesn't seem to be working quite right, and grants is also a way, I believe, to both exponentially grow and support the TE ecosystem while also raising awareness for the TEC. And so a quick criteria to explore three options I have right here right now is just to see if the options we can do have any token utility, or if the format is friendly for projects to contribute to funding. Let's say we wanted, I don't know, Uniswap to contribute to a round or whatever. If the format open is good to have, like if it enables input from an advisory committee, which I believe it's can be pretty important. Maybe not strictly necessary, right? But pretty important to support the whole ecosystem while also keeping track of very particular things that the experts consider to be crucial in this year or in whatever time frame. The other one is how direct or how is the community growth, and then is the impact overall. I have to find better names for that, but that's roughly my thinking. The first one is non-style small grants with an advisory committee. So essentially, you said a few rounds. You said rounds every X time, and the way it works is that you have a specific amount of funding for a specific amount of winners in that round. Maybe it's $1,000 per winner for 3 winners, for 5 winners, 10 winners, whatever it is. And so what's cool about that is that rounds can be either open rounds, maybe it's for whatever purpose, or very specific rounds. Maybe we have a round for TE DeFi or TE tooling, whatever it is. The characteristic of this style is that they usually are pretty fast. The projects that use these kinds of rounds do a few a month at least, maybe 2 or 3. But some do just one as well, so that doesn't matter as much. And the other part is the advisory committee. So the idea would be that if we have, say, 5K a month, 3 would go to the public round and 2 would go to the advisory committee. The public round is, say, if we have $3,000, is $1,000 per winner for 3 winners, and there's $2,000 that the committee can use for projects that we consider are are aligned or that help our strategy or whatever it is. Uh, and so essentially, it has token utility. We can even build a quick MVP with token log, and then even fork the nonce platform if needed. But token log should be more less expensive and easier to set up. Um, Downside is that projects usually aren't so keen on supporting things that involve other projects tokens. Although I guess some projects may be open to contribute to the advisor committee part, but I don't know. Overall, it's not that friendly. You have the advisor from the input from the advisor committee. There's some good community growth on the projects that use this model. They usually have a lot of noise around these rounds, and if we are able to funnel that noise into something productive, into I don't know, town halls, community calls, um, it can slowly grow back the community here at the TC. And then as far as impact, because the funding isn't usually that big, um, I don't consider that there's a huge amount of progress in a specific thing. But the good thing is because of the small size, the how easy it is, and also because it is a predictable amount of funding. People are you can usually expect proposals that are better defined, that have more defined deliverables. I would consider this to have some nice impact, at least on spinning up new ideas around us that then can find other sources of funding. As references, just to show up, this is the announced interface, and so you have rounds. This is not okay. This one. So this, for example, is a very specific round to make a video. You have zero point 0.5 ETH for winners, and people just go ahead and vote with their tokens, and the top four win and get the money, etc. ENS uses it as well. It's essentially the same. You make proposals and people vote with the tokens. Um, and well, this is pretty much this one. Maybe I open the floor here to see any comments or questions before I step into the next one. Five, four, three. Okay, Nate.
I guess my question is around the advisor aspect of it. I think, when it comes to grant making, one of the big problems that we have to solve is figuring out exactly what the priorities are in terms of token engineering, and making sure that we have, this kind of heavily guided, I don't know, infrastructure to say, hey, this is what we need right now, and having those parties being trusted to make those decisions, and then how do we give them that power to make those decisions? It's just kind of those questions in that realm.
Well, the way, for example, the Aave Grants DAO work is so they have a lead and whatever, but the review committee is usually made of people that aren't part of the project. So none of them work for Aave companies, but they're like very rooted in the ecosystem and are experts in their fields. So ideally, our committee would probably be employees from Block Science and other firms, and I would guess even one of two of us, just to be able to have in the committee some input, and just to be able to align some of that with our current strategy, right? But overall, I would expect it to be hopefully employees from other firms, and maybe even I thought maybe even students or hosts from the academy could have a chance and sort of build up a bit of knowledge and even portfolio, whatever it is, by being part of some kind of committee or something like that. I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, so would this be like them controlling the proposals that emerge from these for these small grants, or is this like they get to decide which of the grants that are available that get funded?
Yeah, so I mean, we can do it 1,000 ways, but I imagine it being, for example, this round has 4 winners selected by token holders, and so after the round passes, the committee can select, I don't know, 2 or 3 more of the current proposals to be awarded some kind of funding. So you have those that were selected by the token holders, and then you have others that we wouldn't want to lose. Um, and so we keep a bit of control over that as well.
By the way, this is what Algovra.ai, Antti knows this, but I'm just sharing it with others. So Algovra basically has like a, they give away like 10,000, I think, a month, and in 1,000 DAI grants, and I can't remember how many. It's 2 or 3 that are directed by. They have like a committee like this, and so they're using it to push. They're using that committee advised one to kind of push the initiatives that they're really focused on. So, for example, right now, the curation service is applying for like a recurring $1,000 a month, and that fits with their strategy, with Algovra's strategies. So they're using that as kind of a way to kind of move their strategy forward while keeping a portion of their funding just open to voting by token holders.
Do you mind going back to the page of the grants notes, NT? I guess I have one question. Are these grants going to be for token engineering projects and or also operational projects that we want to fund?
I guess that's up to us more than anything. And even what I like about this style is that you can make several runs, even multiple runs at the same time. So if we wanted to have different things, different runs with different focus, we could do that. But I guess my initial instinct would be to focus on TE specific, so like tooling and education overall.
Cool. And then 2 things. The 2 things I think we should consider how to mitigate is kind of overtaxing voters. So it's kind of voter apathy. People just don't want to keep voting over and over and over again, I think, but maybe that's a wrong assumption. But perhaps we could consider that in the design. And then the other thing that maybe I'll add while we're thinking about this is one of the things I think we had wished we put into the template for conviction voting for proposals was a very clear line that asks for how the proposal or the grant will directly help token engineering or the token engineering commons. So as we're thinking about what these templates could look like, I'd just like to surface that as like a lesson learned.
Yeah, I think there are 2 things there. First, with the voter apathy, not everyone needs to vote. I think that's important. Like, funding is quite small. Something that can definitely be done is have a minimum threshold. So like not so if for whatever reason in a round doesn't get enough votes, we can dismiss it. But I don't think the intention is to have people voting. But I think or at least what it seems like is that these things are very engaging anyways, because you have for mainly for 2 reasons, right? First, the people that propose are usually doing a lot of lobbying themselves and even inside friends and other people to either buy or or just use their tokens to support them. That's one thing. Uh, Projects get very vocal about that. And then for anyone that has a decent amount of TC, I think they would want to be maybe not in every single round, but in most rounds, sort of making sure that what they believe in is getting funded. Which is also why I think these are great, because I believe this style can bring some velocity to the bonding curve.
Hey, NT, I'm wondering just timing wise, maybe we should get through your overview of all three and then open it up to
Yep.
questions.
Yeah, that's better. The second one is a more standard grants guild. So I don't know, like Aves or Uniswap, where projects can essentially go up and say, "Hey, we are working on this, and we need this amount, and if we have it or whatever, we have a chat, and we see if they can be funded." Um, some of these projects or these guilds organize in waves. So even though they continuously accept proposals, they have waves, and certain waves maybe or may give priority to certain type of proposals. They make a bunch of requests for proposals and other stuff. I consider this to be better probably for for a bigger pool of money. I don't think we are going to spend that much on grants, but overall doesn't really have token utility. Projects, I don't think projects would be keen on supporting a private guild for funding, although I would suspect some projects to be open to collaborate in a certain guild, in a certain wave. Maybe there's a DeFi wave and we can raise something from DeFi protocols to work with. It is essentially centered around an advisory committee, so those people would be making the decisions of which proposals go and which doesn't. Community growth, there's community growth, of course, but I don't think it's that direct because there's no public voting. People or projects, I don't think are going to be that much around sort of promoting the rounds and wanting people to join the community and vote. Um, but this is probably the highest impact one because we can sort of delegate and offboard a lot of the work that needs to be done in the field to people that are keen on doing it and that have great ideas. Examples are again the Aave Grants DAO or the Uniswap Grants Program. Um, I don't know. They usually work a lot. They either fund events, data programs, or even protocol changes to these protocols. That's it. The third one is the Gitcoin Grants Protocol, which I won't go through it a lot. I think we all kind of know or have used the Gitcoin Grants Protocol, but essentially projects can go ahead and post a grant and people donate money, and that money is essentially a vote signal. So and using conviction quadratic funding, they get some matching from a pool from a matching pool. This one, I don't think there's token utility. I don't believe the protocol will enable sort of just letting people donate to proposals with the TC token. And I think Griff said the other day that we could have the matching pool be in TC, but having the matching pool in TC, I don't think that's going to be. I think that's going to make it harder for other to find partners to fund the matching pool if they have to have their funds converted into TEC. So that's something to consider. Um, but essentially, it is the friendliest one to have projects contribute. Giving grants have been a huge success, I would say. There's community growth because similarly to the first option, projects usually advocate a lot for people to vote and contribute. And then there's impact. The model seems to scale fairly good, at least to a certain point. Gitcoin has funded, I think, now more than $1 million. the only thing I have with the grants protocol is that I don't believe it's particularly good for small amounts of money, because then if you have lots of projects and the matching pool isn't that big, then projects get essentially nothing, or nothing they can really work with, and so we would lose some of the impact of having those resources allocated. Um, and that's pretty much it. I know there's also the proposal inverter and all of that, but I have yet to, because that's the one that's not already live, or we haven't seen much about it. I have yet to read more about it and have a chat with Mert. Um, and so, yeah. Overall, I considered that probably a combination between the option 1 and 3 would be ideal. But I'll just shut up now and see if there's any opinion or feedback.
Hey, Andy, do you think that with the number 3, so I get what your concern is. Like if it were just completely open, and we were just, let's say the matching pool was 10,000 for whatever it is, a month or like a quarter, and if we had 1,000 projects, then that's like 10 die per project. That's not that exciting, right? But could we? I think that what the alpha rounds are doing is they're delineating who's actually in the round. So I think we could constrain the number of projects that are in a round, and that way, like, help increase the impact, like the monetary impact. And like, do you understand? Do you see what I mean? Like, basically, you could constrain the number of recipients, and then the average gift size or the average match would go up.
Yeah, I mean, yes, but like, what I think is that if we are looking for a primary way to distribute resources, that's not probably it. I think because we may do one sort of alpha round, limited alpha round, but it's usually more work. Like, you have to filter projects. You have to have some support, at least for the grant overall. um you have to find partners. I think it's just more work, and if the pool is not that big, then it doesn't. I don't think it makes much sense. Like, at least to be the primary way. If we can find another way, and then try to raise money for a few rounds a year, I think that would make much more sense.
This is really great work, Auntie. Applause, applause, applause. I really enjoyed this presentation and how you presented everything so clearly. I don't know what my opinion is worth here. I feel like number 3 is an experiment, and we should approach it as an experiment rather than a done deal. And number 1 certainly seems to be something that we could implement quickly if we wanted to, one or two. I don't know if the question is, which one do we do first? Like, what in priority? How do we start doing these? Or what kind of, do you have a question to ask about how to do it, or which ones to do?
Really, the idea is more just about getting some feedback, because we started seeing this matter just, I don't know, last week probably. I don't think we have, or I don't think I have like a particular question, but just more like get a sense of how everyone is thinking about funding. And because it seems like this would probably have more, like, we would probably distribute more funds through one of these than through the common pool. And so I think it's important that everyone sort of understands everything, and just get a temperature check.
All of this would basically be, we turned off conviction voting. So these are the new ways that we stream funding, right? So somehow we would have to also, and if that's correct, then we would also have to think about which one of these fit operational costs and which one of these fit token engineering mission.
Yeah, the common pool is not going anywhere, but I like it's just fairly hard. So I would say that projects like operations go through Tau voting, and then projects should probably go through one of these, unless they are asking for a fairly big or a very specific proposal. But I don't think anyways we have been keen on supporting big proposals lately. So yeah, makes more sense to have a program that fits smaller funds, smaller stipends of money. Or well, maybe what we do is just a very quick round. If anyone can say like sort of which one of the three I should be looking more into. Does that make sense? I don't. I don't really know what to ask right now, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I can start with it. I really, the first two are kind of, they're kind of straightforward. We can do that at any time, and I think it's, a combination of all three of these maybe. But I really like the grants protocol, even though, it may seem experimental. I really think that right now what we should be doing is setting up the infrastructure to allow this to make sure that we have all the core components. We have guidance, proper guidance on what needs to be funded. So I don't think it's about like how much money are we funding every year. Like it needs to be like how much impact are we making with these funds, and making sure that the token engineering projects that are being funded aren't being wasted in a lot of ways. So I think that bringing token utility is another aspect to it. I know it's not. You mentioned that you don't have a lot of faith in that it's going to happen that way, but I think that in aggregate, the more utility we can bring the TEC token, the better. I do think that even if we say like we'll match higher if it's donated in TEC, I think that's something that we can accommodate. I'm a big fan of approaching the Gitcoin grants protocol and using that. But yeah, that's my preference, to be honest with you. Just moving forward, I think we should set up the infrastructure for what makes sense for the future.
I also think that the Gitcoin grants protocol sounds interesting, and it would be a good way of knowing, how to distribute the funds between rounds and between the projects that the people in the community like. And we see that right now Gitcoin is exploring a new way of interacting, where they are like making subjects of projects. And I think it can be also interesting if we have like a round of projects, a round of support or quadratic funding for TE projects. And what I think that may be a bottleneck is the civil resistance. But if we can use Gitcoin Passport, that would be good, because we wouldn't have to do all that work, but we would be using already built infrastructure.
Something just to get in perspective. If we used another a small grants program, whether number one or number two, let's say 5K a month, in a year we would be spending just 60K, and we would have every month something to talk about and something to do. But if we were to do that in a grants protocol, I don't know how many rounds would be appropriate to do with just 60K. So like that's sort of the point, right? Like maybe we can cap the small grants on 60, 50 or something like that, and then have another 20, 25 for a Gitcoin grant protocol round, plus partners that contribute as well. Yep.
Yeah, no, I think it's really cool, and maybe if we do the grant thing, I think it like the Gitcoin grants scheme, um, we can have like less rounds than if we do this small rounds on the other numbers of the ideas. So yeah, I at least uh, from my side, I think that the Gitcoin structure will be really cool.
Yeah.
So, folks, we are kind of running along right now. So, I would just encourage, like, if anybody else has comments, let's just try to keep this quick and let's try to wrap this up in the next 5 minutes. I can go. I like the speed with which we could do the small grants. We could just move pretty quickly and do like get something going. And that might one, but I'm a bigger fan of the grants protocol longer term, just because I think, especially when we don't have that much money, having matches could be very powerful. And I think also like doing monthly. I don't know if we want to be doing monthly grant programs. Like it's a lot. My guess is it's going to be a fair amount of work. So I think doing it like once a quarter, we could build some good hype and we could get some rhythm going. I mean, that is kind of what Gitcoin did, and I think you risk less burnout. But maybe having a way to kind of like move it from the early experiments with just like a small grants program, because it'll take us a while to get Gitcoin grants protocol up and running. So those are my thoughts. Anybody else?
Yeah, well, just before wrapping up, I just shared the HackMD on the chat here, and whatever we choose, I think now that we are going to talk about funding the new proposal today or next week, we should add or consider, having some extra money just to try whatever option we have into the budget.
Okay. Does anybody else have any last comments here? Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Antti, thank you. That's really cool, and I'm kind of blown away by how quickly you pulled that together. Nice job. And by the way, I actually think this is, of all the things that we're doing, I mean, I think that the partnership with the Token Engineering Academy is probably our top priority right now. But this one is a very close second. Like if we can get this figured out, it's going to help us to continue to do our mission in a much more sustainable way. And my thinking is that I think that this is the path to eventually becoming a regranter, where we can get some big money deposited in the common pool and have the TEC be a regranter that's focused on token engineering. So I'm excited about that. Okay, we are now going to move on to the budgeting process. I'm just going to hand it over to you, Bear.
Yeah, sure, Gideon. Thank you. Yeah, so well, the idea today is just to share the kind of like the finalized budget for February, where we are considering the different costs that we will gonna have during the month, also based on our current balance for that we have on our multisig. But before that, I think it will be important just kind of like to talk about a little bit about how has it been like the process of coming up with this budget, and how do we see how do we think it will be evolving like in the future. I think with now roles having the more defined, I think that's going to be a key thing, because it allows some certain of like autonomy or domain for certain people to take certain actions. I feel in this case, like me as being kind of like the lead doing the budget thing, and Gideon doing the strategy thing, we've been able to kind of like work together and talk really like with a lot of detail about this to try to come up with the best budget that we think it's possible, considering the different factors that we have seen currently happening. And that has allowed us to kind of like be able and to have that, to say that that autonomy to propose something to the group and to say, like, I think this could work, and then have that followed by an advice process, right? That I think that's what we've been doing during the last month, of constantly sharing the different options, the different ideas, the different variables, and taking that feedback from the group and incorporating it to at the end have these kind of like last, not proposal, but this last like budget or last product that we have that we can take a look at right now, and that this is like the final result of what we've been working on. So I just shared the link on the chat. Also Gideon, or if someone else could share that on the screen, that'd be also great.
Yeah, could somebody else share it just so that I can continue to take notes?
We'll go over the.
I will. 1 second.
Thank you, Auntie. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So we'll go over the budget here. Everything is based on the actual amount that we have on our multi-sig, and trying to cover the costs for February and March. That's kind of like the goal, that we have enough money to pay everything we need to for these 2 coming months, and on time to have the next funding proposal submitted and passed. So based on that, the available budget that we have, it's $9,290 per month for February and for March. That got a smaller hit from yesterday to today, around $3,000, around $300, sorry, per month, due to some like expense with Steve and the help he has been providing and the guidance he has been providing in terms of communications. There's still not like a for sure amount on that, but we're considering around like 600 total for his work that he already did in January, right? So we'll have to pay for that eventually. So that's just like the only change that we had from kind of like yesterday to today, and that gives us that amount of $9,200 for February. This is distributed again between expenses, basically clarity, the different types of roles that we have, functional and the coordinator role. Kind of like the roles portion, it makes almost like a little bit more than 70% of our total funding in the budget. And then we have around 24% that would be allocated to projects. That's around $2,200 for February. Now, if we go to the next tab that says monthly hours, right there we can see the monthly hours that we have agreed on the different roles that we're going to be having. The ones on red, the events planner and the marketing communication strategist, those will be placed on kind of like hibernation mode for at least for February, because there hasn't been like any clear work stream defined in those areas. So I think it's just better to not rush it and just put them on hold for now. We also have the content creator role. That one is highlighted in blue, because we're thinking on using this role specifically as some sort of experiment to also try to play with this idea of like permissionless contributions. And it will also be the only role that has more than than one spot available. So we're considering right now 3 spots for content creation. So that's like is like a little experiment that we want to play with that specific role. And then the other change is that we also added this new role called the projects organizer. This one I think is going to be really important in the development of all the projects and all the strategy that we're trying to implement here. The idea for it is that it can kind of like overlook and organize the different projects and provide support to the different project leads from every project that we currently have active. And that is able kind of like to link all the efforts together and to be there really attentive to making sure that all of these projects are following like the strategy and are like aligned with each other, and there's like coordination and communication between them, and they are not just isolated and doing their own thing. So I think it's a really important role. So these are what we call the functional roles. That's again the total amount per month that we're going to be spending. If UNT could go to the next tab, the project budget allocation. And that's again based on our budget for projects, that is around 2,200. This is just like the allocation that we ended up deciding. 25% for the Common Pool initiative, that is what NT has been taking on. He's the lead on that project. 25% on the Shilling Point initiative, led by Nate. The Academy partnership, 20%, led by Gideon. The review periods that I will be working on February, 15%, and just having another 15% left for any miscellaneous or other projects that could come up during the month. That would be kind of like the defined percentages that we would be allocating for February. And then if you could go to the last tab, individual compensation. And this is it, kind of like the final tab that puts everything together, and we can really see the kind of like the impact that it will be having in a more individual level for each of the contributors. Not just the coordinators, but we're also considering here Marathon Mind and Joseph as 2 members that have been really active lately and that they want to still keep contributing. Hence, I think it's important that they are also compensated, right? So we're trying to incorporate them into this model. And this is kind of like the proposal on the distribution of the different roles between people. Again, this is based on different factors, on the interest that everyone showed and that were able to share with me, on the needs, on the different projects that were available, but also in terms of kind of like trying to look for certain stability in terms of compensation for individuals, and that there's not like someone taking a big hit for not having too many roles and having more of an uncertain type of compensation of not knowing how much is he gonna get as income at the end of the month. So all of these different factors we try to consider to come up with this allocation of roles. Again, the events planner and the communication strategist, those will be on hold, and the content creator role, being the only one with 3 spots, right now it's being considered that Acid, Marathon Mind, and Joseph could be taking on those roles. You can see there the total monthly hours for each individual, and as well as the monthly amount. If you could go just a little bit, if you could scroll down a little bit, Enti, thank you. Then you have the section of the coordinator role. That's the role specifically for everyone who is a coordinator, just pretty standard, the 12 hours and the corresponding amount, and you have in blue the total. And the last part is the projects. This is again the allocation we had for each of the projects that we'll be tackling in February, based on the 2,200. And here we're just kind of like the idea is that each lead on each of the projects will have has the ability to allocate that funding as they wish, as they agree on with the people that are already participating in the project itself, right? But for example, in the case of, for example, in the review periods that I will be taking on the lead, I've decided allocating 90% of that to myself, as I be the one working more on that, but also 10% of that to Gideon, as he will be also helping me and providing feedback and a lot of guidance in that regard. But just like that, each of the projects have certain individual percentages allocated to them based on the decision of the lead and based on the agreement that it's agreed upon between the different members of the project. So you can take a look at that maybe with more detail. You have the document, so you can take a look at it. At the end, you have there the total project compensation, again individually, and the last row is just like the total compensation, including the roles and the projects. That be kind of like the estimate monthly compensation for everyone in the spreadsheet, including coordination, Marathon Mind, and Joseph as active contributors. So yeah, that be all for now. This is kind of like the rough, well, not rough, because yeah, we've been working a lot on this, but this is kind of like the we could call it the first budget that we defined for this coming month. So yeah, I don't know. I probably it's a lot of process, and because it's a lot of numbers, it might also require you to take some time to go over it and absorb it. But if anyone has any questions, if there's anything that you guys would like to discuss, please feel free to let me know.
One other thing that it's worth mentioning is that, the TEC. So this question of transparency. I mean, we're basically exposing all the numbers to everybody here, and I think we'll be exposing it to the rest of the community just to have absolute transparency on who's making what and how much, and how much the total is. And just this has been a tradition in TEC that goes back for a while. It kind of went in two phases. There's kind of like the positions that were described, whether it's like stewards or like coordinators for working groups. And then back in like, I can't remember, end of August or September, Zepti wanted to try to aggregate all that as part of the transparency working group. And so I don't know if you remember this, but there's a vote that basically confirmed that, yeah, we should have like a way for people to see total compensation that an individual is getting. So this is in that tradition. Should we? So we're opening up for comments, questions at this point.
Well, very quickly, I think first of all, looks really, really good. Thank you, Better and Gideon. I know this has been this looks like a fairly amount of work, and I know this has been going for a bit now. I just think that maybe it's worth having. I don't know if right now is appropriate time, but maybe it's worth having some activity or something to see the distribution of project funding. Because, for example, for the Common Pool initiative, I don't think I'm going to do 100%. I would expect at least Gideon to work with me on that. But just that, right? Because just sorting out the distribution of projects. But overall, looks pretty nice.
For sure, yeah. I mean, I don't know in terms of the agenda and on time, how are we doing? But yeah, I think that's something that even if we don't do in the call, I feel that you as the lead, for example, of that project, you have the freedom to discuss that with the people you're going to be working together and just come to an agreement in terms of in terms of the percentages that you allocate with. And that's the same thing with the SPI, Nate. Also, this is all based on kind of like what you told me, but if there's changes or more people going into the team or whatever, this is like all up to the leads of the projects to decide.
Yeah, I think this is a really good model. I really appreciate all the work you put into this because it's not an easy thing to do. And so I think this will work out really well. And as long as we have kind of transparency, then project leads understand the responsibility they have in terms of setting expectations and making sure people are incentivized and compensated properly. I think that is something that perhaps we can go over on an individual basis as we have new project leads and new projects to kind of steward throughout this method. So I really appreciate the work you've done.
I would have just one question, and it's a little bit like technical. So I don't know if you have a multi-sig, and if the distribution is done directly through the multi-sig, or if you are using the work for the distribution, how are you doing that?
Yeah, it's all through the multi-sig, through the safe, Gnosis safe. We're just doing it that way.
Okay.
And the signers of that multi-sig, just to be transparent on that, are me, Bear, Cam, Olivia, and Griff. And it's 3 of 5.
Amazing.
One other thing I'll mention, so this is piggybacking on Nate's point about project leads. We don't even know what to call you guys yet. I kind of like the idea of project organizer. I like community organizing, and I like community organizers. It's such a great model. But that's not the point. The point is not the name, but the function. And I think what we were trying to do with this design is basically have the roles be something that's flexible, so that people can come and go in roles, but we know what roles need to stay, right? We know the work that needs to happen, and we just never want to have a situation where there's people who are not in a role when that role is not hibernated. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is that with the roles, we were trying to, as Bear mentioned, we were trying to make this so that there is some stability for folks and predictability month to month. That's important. That's a crucial element of economic fairness. So I think that was a big part of this design. I think you can see that it's 75% of the funds are really aimed at that kind of stability, but still allowing staff flexibility with roles and changing of roles over time. So that's good. And then with the projects, that's our way of creating a little bit more dynamism, so that we can move more quickly, respond to things as they come up, and shift resources around. It's only a quarter of the budget. Maybe that will grow as we get better at that over time. Hard to say. We're not going to be probably increasing our budget a whole bunch in the next funding proposal, but we might increase it a bit. And then I guess the other thing is that the way to maybe think about this is that as contributors, as coordinators or organizers of the TEC, we're trying to build this like an engagement pyramid, where we have openings, and we're working on that right now with Marathon Mind and Joseph. How do we make it so that there are roles that people can come into and learn and get experience and build reputation? And then, once that happens, then people become eligible for roles. And then after a while, when people have really proven themselves and they have a good reputation, that's when the project organizer positions start to become available. So those are things where it's like, here you've got somebody who's actually deciding where funds will go. Like if there's, who they're kind of like subcontracting to. The project organizers will have over time a good deal of leadership. And so this is, one way of thinking about what some would describe a deliberately developmental DAO, one that is here to help people grow, right? Professionally and personally, maybe even. So that's part of the design here. Okay, so let's see if there are any other comments, and if not, we'll go on to the next section. So anything from anybody? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, Bear, nice job. This is a really heavy lift. You put a ton of time and energy and really good thinking into this. It's just, I think, we still got, this will change over time, I'm sure. We haven't thought through everything, but damn, man, this is like a lot of progress in not a very long period of time. And I think this is going to go a long way to setting up the infrastructure to make sure that we are accountable. And so that's the next phase of work that Bear's going to be working on. But like, I'm really proud of this team. Like, this is cool. Like, we are going after the challenge, the number one challenge in DAOs, which is how do you be emergent and flexible while at the same time have some direction and have some accountability. So anyway, enough going on, but thank you, Bear. All right, so the next topic, Twitter. I just wanted to say a few things going into this and then kind of maybe set it up for a conversation. So the challenge that the TEC has had for a long time with communications is that, we haven't really had like a high level strategy to work off of. So that's really, that makes it tough for the people who are doing communications. Like if you don't have a clear strategy, you don't know who the audiences are, you don't even know necessarily what you're actually trying to promote, that makes it tough. So, my hat goes off to the people who've done communications here over this last year. It's not been an ideal situation. I think it's been hard for the comms crew. And Acid, I think a lot of that has fallen on you too. It's been tough. So, that's part of the reason for that strategic framework is to try to just get some clarity on that. It's not going to be perfect, but at least it's something, right? And so, that I'm hoping within the next 2 weeks, we'll have the community buy-off on that, and we'll be able to move, we'll be able to move forward with some confidence. I think that, right now, given that, our goal right now is not necessarily to build the same level of engagement on our Discord server as what we were shooting for, say, back in like May of last year, where we had we had a whole working group, Communitas, that was like focused on bringing people in, and we had a lot of process, a lot of overhead with doing that. So the question right now is, if we're not like trying to build a massive funnel on Twitter as as a way to kind of like build our community into this huge thing, then what are we doing? And I'm saying, so just to be clear, it may be that one day we go after that goal again. This is not precluding that possibility, but for the short term, for the next year, we've got to be super strategic. We don't have a lot of funds, so we have to be very focused. and very clear on what it is that we're trying to do. So I think that what that means, so these are kind of some suppositions I'm going to put out there, and then just like a couple of updates on. One is, I think that in terms of our strategies, like what are we really trying to do? I think that this is about building synergy wherever we can. You know, we don't have a lot of funds, so we've got to like make the funds go really far. And that means synergy. Like when you invest in one thing, it's creating value in other things as well. And so what does that mean? Well, that means like the curation service, that we continue to do work on that and like tightening that loop. We're starting, actually, I don't know if you've all noticed, but like there's starting to be more posts in the curation service, interestingly, over this last week or so. So that's one. Synergy with the Shelling Point Initiative. So what's that going to look like? What are the needs there? And then I think also we have some partners. We have some buddies out there in the Giveth Galaxy. But also, you know, like I think, you know, like Inverter Network, Gravity, you know, like there are buddies who we want to support. And so that's also strategic. The next point is that I just don't think that we have enough clarity, enough purpose, like enough, like in terms of like specific goals that are really, really important in terms of getting large scale awareness right now. And we don't have the budget to support having a consultant like Steve for the near term. So I think we have to, you know, we're going to pay him for his services in December and January, but I think we need to cut that for now. And maybe we'll come back later. I've already had a conversation with him, very understanding about it, and asked if that's something that we may need to talk about, like what that means. But I think what I'm hoping is that in this conversation, we try to clarify some things that Stefan was trying to help us clarify. So the questions that I would like to get into is, well, first, are these suppositions that I'm making, do these make sense to people? That's, I guess, the first thing that would be good to talk about in terms of like what is the purpose in the next few months? What are we really trying to optimize for? And then after that, I'd like to talk about a couple of different ideas for opening up contributions on tweets specifically. So let's just get some feedback on these suppositions. Are these synergies, like with the curation service and the SPI and partners, are these the right ways of thinking about this?
Yeah, thanks, Gideon. Yeah, I'm really agree with you about the difficulties and the obstacles that has been being in the comms team these few months, because we don't have like a place to catch up some content. We are like restructuring, and we don't have like a objective right now about what are we doing. Well, we have the content creation, and it without the content creation, I think we will have nothing to tweet. But yeah, these few weeks I have been feeling better about TEC and what were we doing. Also, I want to praise Marathon Mind because he has been a really good support for me in these difficult weeks. I have been sick and all that stuff, and he has been there every day and helping with the Twitter content creation. And yeah, the synergy with creation, I see it very good because, as you say, there are new posters, so we can use them to create some content. The big obstacle here is that I think our Twitter is shadow banned because no one has seen the tweets of the last days. How we can solve that? Maybe just retweet all of us, making some retweet or something. Yes, and that's my opinion. Yeah, I'm really agree with the option that you have. Also, the support for partners I have. We can support also Gravity, make some threads about Gravity, maybe praise. I'm working now in a thread that has made a lot of Give It Galaxy folks, especially praise. Yes, that's kind of all. And yeah, I'm also agree with the Stephen decision. He is a really great guy with a lot of good ideas, but I think that we can go ahead without his help. Um, yes, we need to pay him, yeah, but we can follow without his help, I think. And yeah, that's my opinion. I don't know who wants to go now.
Can I go next? It's more of yeah, a comment and also like a suggestion as well with regards to content creation and yeah, content creation and with regards to the Twitter feed as well. I wanted to say, would everyone be open to, like, for example, tweeting about, you know, what's going to be coming within like the individual projects, whether it's, you know, the SPI or other and other projects that are coming that are going to be, you know, fleshed out within the next couple of months. So, for example, some of the research groups, in interest groups, and just tweeting out basic knowledge of what is a research group and what is it about, and what is the interest group and what is it about. How, when can you find out more about it, and just creating like a buzz around certain things that are going to be coming to the TEC and what we're going to be providing, whether it's future with like grants or whether even if it's to do with like the TEC token and just other things around other projects that are grants and whatever the case is. I think that create, you know, a bit more engagement with regards to, you know, people being interested into what's actually happening within like currently and then within the short term and potentially long term future.
I'll just jump in really quickly. Yeah, I think I think that's going to make sense. I mean, we're going to have to figure out what all those plans are and like not jump the gun too early, you know. But like, I think it's great to do that. We did a little bit of that with the curation service itself, kind of like pumping it up before it went live, you know, talking about it. And I think we can definitely do that. That's hype. That's the hype machine. We need more hype machine. So yeah.
And also, I read on a report. I don't know how new or recent the report was, but I believe Twitter within the US regions are opening up a feature where you can co tweet with other accounts. So I don't know if that's open to any of you guys or any of you guys have been able to access that feature, but I know Twitter within the next couple of months are going to be opening up the feature where you can co-tweet. So let's say, for example, the TEC and the Token Academy could co-tweet on something that's going to be happening within the future. So that's something to kind of look out for. And then also some of like the partnerships that we have, you know, other organizations, and creating tweets around those things and what could be happening with that could help boost like attention to like our account if we're, you know, tagging our partners and they're tagging us in tweets that are relevant to, you know, the TEC. That's my last comment anyway.
Just very quickly on that last point. Yeah, so maybe not everybody is familiar with what's actually happening on that front. So there is this network of organizations that are informally called the Giveth Galaxy. So this includes General Magic, Common Stack, Giveth, who else? I'm trying to, well, us, and the Trusted Seed, I think, is in there, and potentially the Refi network. So basically, we have kind of a loose agreement to share each other's tweets, and there is like a thread where we do some of that coordination. So that is happening already, and we may look to expand that base of partners. Other comments, thoughts from people?
Yeah, I was gonna say that outside of, I don't know if we need the curation service to lean on to curate our tweets, but I do think that setting up some infrastructure, shared documents that we have for Twitter, perhaps Absoluzer, you could work on setting that up to where we can have more, input in terms of helping craft tweets and help kind of share that load of responsibility in terms of curating and making sure that we have our messaging nice and neat. I think that would be really nice, especially from the perspective of the interest groups, the research groups, is something that we want to prioritize in terms of promoting them and making sure that we have ways that we can craft messaging around that and have it tweeted out periodically. So I'm more than willing to set up a meeting with you and work on setting that up.
Okay, cool. Well, let me throw out a couple of ideas that that have been they've been kind of like bubbling up for me over the last week or so. So one of the things I think we want to try to do outside of comms, like not just this isn't just a comms thing, but we want to make it so that the work that's happening in the TEC doesn't all have to happen through this coordination team, right? Otherwise, we never scale. Like the commons will not scale, and we don't want to do that, right? We don't want to have like all the work be handled just by this small crew. So finding ways for like more permissionless contributions is really important. And we've gotten this feedback from a number of folks. Livia's talked about this. Juanca's talked about this. I mean, I've talked about this. So this is an important thing. And it seems like with our comms, we might have like a window to be able to do this. And this is a little bit kind of like what you were just talking about, Nate. So there are two things I want to just touch on. One is how do we do that? And then the second is how we might coordinate a little bit better the messages, and not so much the editing, but like the like what messages do we want to go out there. So first on this question of who and how. Right now, if you were to look back at that budget, but basically what we did is we had like the content creation, and we like allocated a certain number of hours across 3 people who can have those roles. And it's not a lot of money right now, but as we start to ramp up and communication starts to become more important again, then in theory that should increase. So one way of doing it is kind of more of a staticky way of doing it. It's like, well, we're gonna have 3 people, and we want to, like we'll spread it across the people that way. Another approach is to make it more dynamic and like more like retroactive public goods funding in a way. It's like you basically say, hey, this is how much money there is available for tweets, and we basically have people have fairly open access to tweeting. Like basically anybody can suggest tweets, and if your tweets get a lot of engagement, you get more of that budget at the end of the month. So what's cool about that is that you end up, it's more dynamic. It's like responsive to, it's like more impact oriented. What's not as cool about that is that, it's less predictable, right? But we're not talking about a lot of money right now anyway. So that's this is the question. It might be a way for people to really shine, and like produce really good content and get more of the budget, or it might end up with some negative, like I don't know what it would do, like in terms of incentives and motivations. Like you just never know when you set up incentives like that what the impact would be. So there could be some negative fallout, but there could be some positive fallout. Yeah, I'll stop there for right now, and just let's get some feedback on that question.
I don't think I got everything, but overall, because I was a bit distracted, but overall, I think maybe a better a better investment to have someone or however it is more dedicated to to Twitter in general, communications in general. So like even just spending a few hours a week or a month on Twitter, we having the TEC account interacting, or having someone that can sort of make one thread a week or something like that about something, I don't know, about something stupid, whatever it is, may be better. Because what happens with open contributions, I think, is that especially if the pool of funds is not big enough, we end up spending even more, and I'm not sure we have the same impact. So maybe one thing to consider would be to use those funds for someone that could take care of that. I could spend more time with that, but still have a small fund, but more like contests. That's something we can also consider, and I've seen a few people do that. So maybe contests for really small things, even memes or whatever it is, but something that it's less frequent, and we don't even need to spend as much money on that.
Yeah, let me answer just to clarify what I was talking about. Yeah, I think we would not be able to have it be open. So it would be basically like a fixed pool of funds. Let's say it's like I can't remember what we have in the budget right now, but let's say it's 600 DAI or something like that. And basically at the end of the month, you would just basically look back at the percentage of engagement that each person got, and you would allocate it that way. That you wouldn't have it open ended. Yeah, but I understand what you're saying. Like the good thing about having somebody dedicated is it's more predictable. One other thing I think is worth mentioning is I think what we're seeing naturally unfold here is that the two places where we want to start creating more content are curation and the Shelling Point initiative. And actually, so Joseph has kind of naturally gravitated to the Shelling Point initiative, working with Nate on that. So it could be that Joseph is taking more of a lead when it comes to like tweets that are related to the Shelling Point initiative, and Marathon Mind is like naturally taken the lead over the last few months, actually, on the curation service, creating good, like really good content, actually doing like posting stuff in the service, curation service. So that might be more like where he's focused, the tweets. That helps to ensure synergy between tweets and services.
Also, the idea is from the people, I guess mostly from the people that are here right now, that we would have a pool of I don't know, communication spendings, and whoever participates gets a cut, and probably depending on the impact gets a bigger cut.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like thinking this is more like design mode now, rather than me saying like, hey, here's the way this has to be. I'm just saying like, or maybe the problem is like, Joseph and Marathon Mind, I wish that we were talking about more funding here, right? Like, I realize this is not, this is not currently like a big pot of funding. But I think it's a way to build your reputation here, build your name within the community, and hopefully build a track where we can like allocate, get some more budget allocated to this over time. But one thought is that we make it all dynamic, and the other would be like, well, maybe we could have like a portion of it that is less dynamic and more fixed. But we're not talking about a ton of funding. So I'll stop talking. I want to get a little bit more feedback.
Well, this is the last thing I'll say because I now understand everything. So I think ideally what would happen is that we have a fixed amount. So I don't know, for the curation and for the selling point initiatives, there's a fixed amount, and we say, hey, we want I don't know, we want X amount of tweets every week, and you get paid this much as part of a role or whatever it is. And then have someone, ideally, I guess, as it laser, sort of check on the engagement and make recommendations. I don't think having it fixed and dynamic based on engagement is going to make. I don't think it's appropriate because I think it's. I would guess that we have to prioritize frequency more than engagement. And so yeah.
I agree with Anti in that respect with regards to free. But I think as long as there's a balance, because sometimes you could because obviously you need the historical data with regards to the best times to tweet, what to tweet, even hashtags to use. Like for example, there's some platforms that you can use like Audience, where it takes your Twitter profile and tells you when your followers, so the people that you follow or the people that follow you are online. So for example, I done mine back last year, and it said, the best times for me to tweet, because most of my audiences are in America and Latin America, then the best time to tweet would be between Wednesday and Friday, between 6 and 8. So once you have those tweets, then you can use, like platforms to look at it from an analytical standpoint, and then to find out the best times to tweet, so that you're not tweeting randomly, and then not necessarily wasting tweets, but you're putting your efforts at tweeting are more focused and more precise and hard hitting with regards to when your audience would see it.
One thing with the Twitter thread for curation service is that once we did a thread, and then see one of the author DM me and saying stuff like that. So maybe in the future we can post the thread, and then maybe also reach out to this author or the particular project that they're posting this sort of partnering, sort of maybe they retweet and we gather more engagement around it, sort of like an outreach for curation service.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. That's what I was hoping to be able to do more of. So I think that's really good. Working with partners to extend the reach. One other way of thinking about this is if you look at those budgets, there is budget for the Selling Point initiative, and maybe part of what that is used for is the communications part. So Joseph's portion of that project is for that, to supplement that. And then there is some funding set aside for curation service operations. And that could be the kind of the fixed part for Marathon Mind for your work on that. So one other, well, let me stop for one sec. Any more feedback on this question of the way we compensate?
I guess. Oh, sorry, Nick. I'll just go quickly. I think I personally I would like to see how would it look like to have this more like dynamically and more open and start to play around with these different possibilities. I think it just a matter of trying something different. It's just worth it. But at the same time, I really agree with what Enti was saying that I think there should be someone dedicated, maybe not to the content creation, but to coordinating the content creation. And I feel that would be the idea was that the marketing or the communication strategist role would have that type of responsibilities in coordinating the different content creation efforts. Now, so we could allow the content creation part of things be more dynamic, more flexible, a little bit more fun, but we would have everything organized and aligned to what the marketing strategist says, right? So I do think that position is really important. The only thing is that we haven't been able to tackle it and to find someone to take on that one. But yeah, I think having this combination of the two kind of like worlds or responsibilities could help in achieving this.
Yeah, I was also going to make the suggestion that perhaps, we have the functional roles that are associated with the communications and marketing aspect of it, but perhaps we can also, have that, that person is responsible for coordinating the messaging and making sure that everything gets done in terms of communications and marketing, but also having a kind of a allocate small portion of the budget to give them a project lead and distribute funds as a project lead kind of way, as we do with other projects. That way we have people who, for example, Joseph, you are really great in terms of design and creating just kind of art in general. And so looking through your portfolio of stuff, which is really awesome, it would be really nice to have you be able to lean into that and help out with kind of the messaging and the design work within the context of marketing and communications, and still get compensated with that from like a project perspective. And so I think this is something that perhaps we could look into, but just a suggestion. So just throwing that out there.
Yeah, one assumption I had was that the role that is the Twitter operator role, it would be that person who would be the consistent, making sure that one, we're tweeting regularly, we're not going a day without having at least 1 or 2 tweets, that the timing is right, like proofing things, doing replies. And all. That's more like the operator job. And that, Bear, this is kind of what you're talking about, is like, that then the content creators would be a little bit dynamic. That was my assumption, is that would be the operator's role, even just now while we don't have the strategy, the communication strategist, that would be the function. Let me throw out one other thing just while we're here. Has to do with how we actually pull together tweets. And one thing I'm thinking would be, maybe I know that we have a place often, we have like a Google Doc where we do the actual thread prep and feedback and stuff like that. But what I'm wondering is if we couldn't turn the comms channel into just like a brainstorming channel where it's like, hey, I'm thinking, that next week, and this is kind of what the comms team did originally, was, it's basically like you basically post in the comms channels like, hey, here are the things that I'd like to talk about this week. So, Marathon Mind, you're like, hey, I've got, this, and this post look interesting. It'd be great to get people's feedback on like what you all think is the best. And then, you know, Joseph, you can be like, hey, Nate and I've been talking, and these are the things we'd like to, you know, these are some things that we'd like to focus on. So we can get the kind of the eyes of this whole crew on that and giving some feedback and stuff. And then based on that, you pull together the tweets, and then they go off to Acid to be able to send out. Thoughts on-
Sounds pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree that that gives like visibility, and it helps maybe Acid coordinate like, you know, like a schedule for when to tweet it in order, so it actually does, you know, make sense. So posting it in the comms channel like a summary of like what you want to tweet, maybe with like, you know, pictures and whatever the case is, and then that can be, you know, I think I think that definitely makes sense, and it allows everyone to see what, you know, what's been what that the general feel of what's been tweeted previously, you know, and then maybe even some collaboration between teams and whatever with regards to future tweets and stuff like that. So I like the idea.
Okay. Any other thoughts on this before we wrap it up? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Well, thanks for everybody's input on this. I think what I'll do is sit down with Bear and think this through a little bit more. Maybe what we can do is come back next week with like some next steps. We'll get some feedback from everybody who's involved, and then lock it down next week. Okay. This is great. We have 9 minutes to just get some like quick and dirty feedback on the new funding proposal. So basically, for people who are not familiar, so if you're new to this process, basically what has happened in the past is working groups basically would submit an operational budget effectively to the common pool, and then the TEC community would vote on whether or not to approve those funds. And so we are now reaching a point where, you know, basically I think we need to get our next proposal pulled together by the end of this month, so that we have time to post it on the forum and vote, you know, get it voted on, so that the funds can start to flow in the beginning of April, because that's basically end of March is when our funds are projected to run out. So some questions that would be great to just get some just random thoughts on right now is, one question: what's the length of this proposal? Are we talking about 3, 4, or 6 months, or something else? There's costs and benefits to each one of those. And then also, it's time to start thinking about what are the big goals for this proposal. We want to have it be, I think we want to have it be some kind of high-level themes that make it easy and make it exciting to the community. So the ones that seem pretty obvious are the Token Engineering Academy partnership, the common pool, I don't know what to call this, revitalization, or I don't know what to call it, restoration, I don't know. NT, you got to come up with a name for that. And then Shelling Point Initiative. And then there's some other things that are kind of like floating out there. Like there's some cool opportunities around where the curation service is going, particularly with ChatGPT integration, and Notion integration, that could be very valuable to the academy, but also for us, especially the interest groups and research groups. There is this idea of accepting TEC payments. So the Token Engineering Academy, we would like them to be able to accept TEC for payments for their courses and their accreditation. And then there's a lot of talk also right now about reputation systems. So what would be great is if you've got thoughts, let's not focus on the length of the proposal. We'll come back to that later. But if there are big ideas that are sitting out there, it'd be great to hear those right now. We'll add them in, and we can then use a process to refine it over time.
I'll just go quickly, just really quickly. I think it will be definitely a good idea to get the token, the TEC token, kind of like in circulation and make it purposeful. So with regards to, like you said, making or allowing students from the token academy to accept payments with regards to like the TEC token, that will help like create liquidity and buzz around that. So yeah, I definitely like that idea. Also, maybe the same thing could be done with regards to the token, with regards to the research group and incentives groups as well. So as part of, let's say, as funding and maybe as extra incentive, they receive the TEC token as well.
I'll go here now too. Very quickly about length of proposal. I think the longer the better, to be honest. But I think what's more important is that we sort of look how much conviction would require different amounts, because I think we want to strike a balance where we have as much where the proposal is as long as possible, but it's also realistic in terms of conviction required. And as as far as goals, I think I don't think we have time to talk about goals. I think there's a lot to talk about there. But overall, I think it's important that we consider for this proposal an extra budget, because seems like a few of the goals may require more money, or contractor money, I guess, which is something that we haven't need to so far. So, for instance, the TEC payments, that's in our interest. So, if we have to cover something or all of the general magic costs, we need some extra budget, as well as for testing the grants or whatever it is.
Yeah, so one of my big goals, and that's kind of parallel to the interest groups and research groups, is I'm having some interviews with some people at the IEEE. One of the things that I want to try to accomplish is to get partnerships started. In a similar way that the IEEE has their technical societies that they have around specific areas within engineering, and specifically around things like DeFi and DeSci and decentralized society. These different categories that we have that are broad, kind of in the Web3 space, to try to get kind of some representatives from each of these areas to have kind of these technical committees that can kind of guide and help fund with these research groups and interest groups. And so looking at kind of like the organizational structure of how we have this type of area, how we organize ourselves within the token engineering community. So that's been on my mind, and kind of like a bigger term goal that could be fleshed out a little bit later. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there. But focus on partnerships.
Okay, we are about out of time. So let's wrap it up here, and know that this is the first of probably several conversations about what we'll be doing in the next season. So yeah, we'll stop it here. All right, everybody. Hey, thank you. Good good productive session. Appreciate everybody's active participation. Great to see you all, and we'll see you, some of you on Tuesday and some not. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Gideon and Nate.
Thank you.
Same. Thanks. Take care, everyone.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.